So, final week of quantum living, and this is about looking about how do we make peace with our past? How do we come to some sort of space, place of healing when we think that our past is against us? And by that we mean like whatever our experiences may have been, that somehow there's narratives that we run, that those experiences from our past have created a place, a space that is limited and narrow for us to be able to live and experience and be now. So our past is actually alive in us because we keep it alive in us. Can you feel the truth of that? Now. But is it actually happening now? Feels like it though, right? It can really feel like it sometimes, that the past is still happening. So we've been talking about this. This is who we truly are. We are the divine being. We are wholeness. We are light. We are love. And this is who we think we are. That we see and analyze and judge and break down this understanding of ourself where we think that somehow we are broken. That there is something about us that is innately wrong, that is innately off, that we need to fix or correct or make okay for the world. Can I get an amen on that? So I've been talking about how what triggers those places, those spaces, which in quantum living we would say when we have forgotten who we are, when we are living from who we are not, it's because our fundamental needs somehow have not been met. And the fundamental needs for all of us are safety and security, love and connection, a sense of worthiness, a sense of abundance, and empowerment. And when we have these needs, when we feel as if those needs are met, we can show up as the wholeness that we are. But when those needs somehow are not being met, we fall into the story or the narrative about what it means about us, what it means about the world. Now, some of these needs and these needs when we were children or when we were younger, is there any child ever born that had all of its fundamental needs met at every moment? It doesn't happen. There's always some space, some place where our fundamental needs are not being met. And when that happens, we create a story. We create a story about what it means because that need wasn't being met. And the story that we make is usually about how we are wrong. So in the quantum living, a lot of these myth and messages, I just put a couple of them up here, right? These are what arise within us because our need wasn't being met. I am alone. If we're missing love and connection, then we start to feel that we are alone. Or perhaps we start to feel that I am unlovable. If that connection, if that sense isn't there, I am not enough. I don't measure up. I am hopeless. I am broken. I am a fake. Anybody in here identify with that one? I am invisible. I don't matter. I am unsafe. I am unworthy. I don't belong. The big one, I am bad. Big one. How many people, when you were a child, were told, you're a bad girl, you're a bad boy, because of something you did or didn't do? And we take these messages in. I am self-centered. How selfish of you. Anybody in here hear that? We start to create a narrative about who we think we are based on what's happening around our needs not being met. Can you feel the connection there? And so what then starts to happen is that happened in the past. Something happened in my past that made me think I am alone. But it reverberates throughout me now. So something will happen in present day that triggers, that aligns, that is in resonance with that story that I have, that I'm alone. And guess what? All of a sudden, I'm 5 again. All of a sudden, what's coming up for me is something that is in my past. And that resonance is what is actually impacting us right now. Now, I gotta say this. I love my 4 and 5-year-old. She was smart and tenacious and sassy. She was 4. Some of the things that she decided about the world and about who I was are not true. She believed them. She believed them wholeheartedly, but they're not actually true. And yet, that story is resonating through to me now. So whether it's I am alone, or it's I am a fake, or I am unsafe, this is what happens, why we get reactive instead of responsive to things that happen in our life. Because it's not just about what's happening in time and space right now, it's also the resonant echo of something that happened to us before. And that takes over the entire narrative. Sounds exhausting, doesn't it? I mean, as I'm talking about this, I'm like, oh boy, right? It's exhausting. But it's we set up these neural pathways. I mean, there's science behind this too. We set up these neural pathways. We set up this way of cognitively processing information, and all we're doing is supporting the narrative that I am unsafe, supporting the narrative that I am alone. So what do we do? What are we being invited to do? So here are, so you see Micah, who's our new kitten, and you see Spirit, who is probably got, the vet says another month maybe, with us in time and in space. And we got Spirit when he was 3 months old, which is the same time that we got Micah. Micah was 3 months old when we got him. When we got Spirit, he had been on the streets since he was 6 or 7 weeks old. Micah was found at 2 weeks old in the engine of a car that had driven from Novato to Napa. And he was found because he was crying, right? And somebody heard him and they took the car apart and they found him. Trauma for both, right? Both of them have experienced trauma. And yet, Spirit, who has been with Chris and I for 18 years, who will climb into our laps and crawl with us and want to be cuddled and wants attention, if we move too quickly, will run underneath the bed. If he thinks we're trying to do something, like he's always on high alert. He is always looking for the thing that is, and he is just skittish. He is incredibly skittish. Because that wiring that I am not safe, even though he has been safe for 17 and a half of his years, he cannot overcome what happened in those first 6 weeks of his life. Now, Micah, he is just underfoot all the time. He has no fear. Loud noises don't scare him. Nothing sort of phases him. And it's really interesting because as Micah has come into our life, Spirit has gotten less afraid. Because he sees what happens with Micah. Nothing bad is happening to Micah. So something in his system has been quieting down because he's able to understand that there's another possibility. There's something else possible besides whatever that hard wiring is in his little, beautiful, magnificent, but very neurotic system. Right? And so this is us. Can you feel this? This is us. Are we going to allow whatever those traumas were from when we were younger or older, are we going to allow them to run us now? And that doesn't mean that we gloss over them, and it doesn't mean we don't give them love and compassion and we pay attention, but that's what healing is about. Can we in some way transform that narrative that gets into our body temple, into our neurological system, so it's running us rather than us running it? And so in quantum living, we would say, you got to cue it, right? You got to cue it. And we talk about quantum physics, about how things can be a particle and a wave simultaneously. It can be something fixed in time, like a memory, and it can also be possibility and potential. Now, what Spirit has been experiencing is something that he thought was fixed, that if Chris and I move too quickly, he has to hide because he's not safe, which I got to tell you, it's been really frustrating when, all you do is love something and it runs from you. But we love him in it, right? He's been able to see that there's another possibility, right? Micah is showing him something so that he is able to discover there's something else. So the particle, that fixed understanding that we have, gets to have a little bit more space. So how do we do that? We have to bring the antidote to whatever that narrative is. I'm alone, I'm unsafe, and whatever that is, we bring the truth of who we are. We remember who we are. And this is just a sampling of some of the things that you can remind yourself that you are. That is the essence of your being. This is what we believe in Unity. That all of this is available to each of us in each and every moment. And are you choosing it? Because if you're not choosing it, we call it falling off your cue card. You've allowed life to take you off of your divinity. And instead, you get to remind yourself, no, I'm wise, I'm open-hearted, I am organized, I am capable. Right? I am capable. That truth of who I am, that story is not going to be fixed anymore in my understanding. And I'm going to allow it to become a wave again. Memories are not fixed. We feel like they're fixed. But scientifically, memories are actually a chain of chemicals that are linked together in a specific sequence. And every time we call up that memory, we modify that sequence. It torques just a little bit. It drops one of these little chemicals over here, and it adds another little thing over here. Every time that memory is being shifted. So the way quantum living operates is it says, remember, all perception is misperception, why don't we choose the thing that will enable us to feel strong and empowered? Why don't we choose the thing that will enable us to not have to relive our past again and again and again? But again, I want to be really clear. I'm not talking about doing a bypass. I am not talking about going around the discomfort of whatever trauma might be alive in our systems. But I am talking about bringing the possibility of healing to that system. Because this is who we really are. And if we can remember that, then what happens to us right here and right now is transformed. And we can create a new future. We can create a new future that's not linked to, we get to disrupt it. Can you feel that? That we're disrupting the narrative. And we're allowing a new possibility to begin to emerge. So we've been working with Reverend Cynthia on the U theory, right? And we've been working in this process of change and letting go. And a lot of it has been working through our past. Does this sound familiar? Letting go and seeing what is arising in the future. And so the process that Cynthia has been guiding us with has levels, right? Where we descend downward, opening our mind first, opening our heart, opening our will, right? And we started off, and we did this. We started off by listening. We started off by observing what was. We began to sense into something, and then we get to the bottom of the U, and that's the presencing. And that's what unity does so well, the presencing. And we were presencing the deepest source, right? And if you were there for the Heritage and Healing Weekend, it was a challenging weekend. But what we did was presence the things that were seeking to be healed, getting rid of a narrative, getting rid of an idea, getting rid of something that we were stuck on, resentments, all of that, and allowing something new to emerge. And so here we are now, letting the future arise, right? And crystallizing the energy around something new, our vision, mission, and core values. Beginning to put into place practical applications of that vision, mission, and core values. And ultimately, performing in a new space from a new place because we are disrupting in a really beautiful way. Can you feel how this also honors our heritage, honors our legacy, and allows us to be able to move forward? And that's what the quantum living process is inviting you into personally, and what it is also inviting us into collectively as a community. So our vision, mission, and core values, I just want to look at our core values because this is how we get to crystallize, right? This is how we get to begin to live into this. So connectivity, living in an awareness of unity with all. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But how do we do it? What is it asking of us? It's asking us to open to divine inspiration and actively engage with spirit. It is asking us to honor the divinity of all through loving service. And it is asking us to enjoy and appreciate having fun together. Is fun important? Woo, it is so important, right? It is so important. This is what we're being invited to step into as we create a new future, inclusivity. And this was the one that really took the most work. And I want to say this, that this community is with the rest of the world navigating what on earth inclusivity actually means, right? Nobody's got this totally figured out yet. We're all growing into this, cultivating a safe space to celebrate diversity and value the uniqueness of every person. And how do we do that? We widen our lens to understand and honor the lived experiences of others. We are enriched and become more as we consciously question our assumptions. That's a big one. We cultivate a space of belonging for all before they come in the door. And that one, to me, is just so beautiful because what we're talking about is consciousness. We've been having conversations about diversity versus inclusion. You know, there are spiritual communities that are just not going to be diverse because the community that they live in, the place where they are, isn't diverse. But that does not mean that that community cannot be inclusive. Being inclusive means that we are creating a container so that if diversity does walk through the door, we are not going, oh no, what's that? That's different, right? That we are growing ourselves in consciousness, that we are becoming something, making space for something. And I am just going to say that this is where all of our core values are where unity becomes impactful in the world today. This is where we become a force for change so that our vision, which is that it's a world transformed and awakened through our realizing our divine potential, actually can happen. This is how we grow. This is how we grow the community. Because it has to make a difference in the world. If it doesn't make a difference in the world, people aren't going to want to come. They're not going to want to listen. It's got to be impactful in a larger way than just me. And then we have authenticity. being true to ourselves, our values, and spirit. We share our voice, gifts, and talents with vulnerability and humility. Love that, right? This isn't about the loudest voice in the room. This isn't about who has the bigger space, because I take up a lot of space, folks. But it's not that. It's about sharing with vulnerability and humility, valuing honesty and taking responsibility for our choices. And this one, we nurture trust by aligning our actions with our values. When we line them up, we are creating a space where people can trust. So can you feel how all of our core values are actually meeting our fundamental needs? They are creating a container that allows us and each other and people we don't even know yet to feel safe and secure, to feel love and connection, to feel a sense of worthiness, a sense of abundance, and a sense of empowerment. Because there is only one thing, you guys. There is, and sorry I said guys, you folks, you people. Trying to catch myself. I know my wife, who is not feeling very well, she's home, she's counting them for me. I go home and she's like, 5 guys, you did it 5 times. What was I saying? Thank you. We get our fundamental needs met. But this is where it's not just about my needs, it's also about your needs. It's about the people we don't even know, it's about their needs. We're not responsible for them, but we do want to create a container where they can experience something, where it's available to them if they can step into it. It's not ours to push them in or force them in or make them come in. But we want to have the space made so that if they come in, they actually can trust that they're safe. It's huge. And this is powerful work. Can you feel how powerful this is? At the board retreat yesterday, we were like vibrating. We were vibrating with what this is sort of calling us to. Because it's individual, it's collective, it's an invitation for all of us to make the particle, whatever that particle is for you, you know what it is. Whatever you're fixed in, whatever you're stuck on, to make it a wave, to allow possibility and potential, to shift something. So your homework this week is, how will you live into our core values? How will you actually live into them? What is that going to look like for you? Because it's not about being passive and just sitting back. It's really about activating something, being the change. That's what we're called. And when we do that, it's ours, it's everyone's. Oh, I know what I was saying. There's only one thing happening. There is no separation. What is happening as my life is happening as Cindy's life, is happening as Paula's life, it's happening as everyone's life. So we want to be aware of how much impact we can make in the world. We want to honor that. We want to stand in that. And it begins with, how are you going to live into these? In quantum living, we would call it your authentic action. What are you authentically going to do to live into this, to embody it, so that you are physiologically changing the neural pathways of your being? It's not enough to think it. You have to do it, be it, live it, embody it. So let's take all of this into our time of meditation. Let's breathe into whatever that past is. Whatever the narrative is, whatever story helped to shape who you understand yourself to be, we get to honor it. We get to honor that story. We don't have to throw it away. We don't have to dismiss it or discard it. We get to honor it. We get to bless it. And we get to say, and. Additive and inclusive. This teaching is additive inclusive. So I invite you to just to open your heart to that place within yourself that perhaps has forgotten or never knew who you truly were. And if you are crystal clear on who you are, just rest there. Just allow that to continue to grow in your awareness. Recognizing the love that we are, the grace that we are, the joy that we are, the capacity that we have to heal, to grow, to evolve, to shift, to pivot. This is our true nature. And so in this moment, just whatever feels fixed within, just allowing it to soften and disperse. Perhaps you do see it as a fixed point of light that becomes a wave of light beams. Perhaps it's a dandelion flower that you see and you blow and it all scatters away. Perhaps it is smoke and we see and know that it dissipates. And just allow yourself the opportunity of freedom. Freedom from whatever it is that you carry or you think you know. Just allowing the possibility that there is something else available to you. That like spirit, you get to maybe be a little more centered in the truth of what is right now. And as we breathe in and breathe this out, we're just going to rest here for a few minutes. Nurturing, holding, anchoring the truth of who we really are. For a few minutes, we'll just rest here in the silence. And so it's into this space that we just recognize the love and the peace and the joy. Pick some quality of the divine that you know you are: wisdom, wholeness, brilliant, smart, capable. And just know the truth of that right now. And just feeling that wave encompassing you in this moment, the truth of your being, the truth of who you truly are. And so it is. Amen. So we have an affirmation from the Lent booklet, which I thought was really perfect. Letting go of who I was, I trust the process of becoming more than I ever imagined. Can we know this together? Letting go of who I was, I trust the process of becoming more than I ever imagined. And so it is. Amen.